Today on Would You Believe It, discover the world's most shocking collection of medical oddities, where the remains of Chang and Eng, the Siamese twins, can be seen. Hear a tragic Civil War love story, a tale of doomed lovers caught up in the midst of America's most terrible battle. See the only 100% accurate weather forecasting system known to humanity, a rodent known as Punxsutawney Phil. Travel to a town on fire, sentenced by an ancient curse to descend to the depths of hell. Visit the strange, the bizarre, and the unexpected on Would You Believe It? This is Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the home of the Liberty Bell, a city which draws thousands of tourists every year to the birthplace of a nation, to its famous museums and galleries, and even its infamous penitentiary. In this city alive with energy, an ever-increasing number of visitors are coming here to marvel at one of Philadelphia's more macabre collections. This is the Mutter Museum at the College of Physicians of Philadelphia. Most institutions have a few skeletons in their closet, but here, thanks to Thomas Mutter, their benefactor, they have hundreds of them. In 1856, Dr. Mutter wrote to the college that ill health was forcing him to retire his post at Jefferson Medical College, and he wished to offer the college $30,000 and his unique collection. When it arrived, the college discovered Mutter's unique collection consisted of over 2,000 examples of medical technology and curiosity. After years documenting, the college opened its doors to the public. For over a century, this enigmatic gallery has been home to some of medical science's most amazing and gruesome artifacts. This is a plaster cast of conjoined twins born in 1870. They lived to be 13 months old. In their time, they quickly became a medical curiosity, visited by hundreds of people every day. Doctors would continually send specimens of interest to Mutter's collection whenever they came across them, like the doctor who sent this skull from a field hospital serving the Battle of the Wilderness during the Civil War. Sadly for this young soldier, the doctor had no trouble determining his cause of death. The bullet passed completely through this skull. This wall of skulls from 19th century Bosnia, containing 139 skulls, highlights some amazing distinctions in skull structures. This wax sculpture is of a famous lady, Madame de Manche, who lived in Paris in the early 19th century. With medical techniques too crude and dangerous to remove it, the unicorn lady lived her whole life with this 6-inch horn sprouting from her head. This man complained he only had a bowel movement every 4 weeks. Doctors diagnosed him as having a simple enlargement of the colon and sent him home. Soon after being sent home, the 29-year-old man died. After an autopsy, doctors discovered why. This is the man's colon. It measures 8 feet long and weighed over 40 pounds. At its widest point, the colon has a circumference of nearly 2 feet. Now filled with wire and straw to keep its shape, the colon is preserved in this case as a warning to all trainee doctors of the perils of making a misdiagnosis. Gretchen Warden is the director of the Mutter Museum and is in charge of maintaining and expanding the collection. In recent years, she has added to a huge number of bizarre items which have been swallowed or inhaled. Like this colorful biplane, which was fortunate enough to make a return trip, and this 2-inch-long pin, rusty from its time spent lodged in someone's stomach, and this decorative pin. These are just some of the 2,000 extraordinary items recovered from the windpipes and stomachs of hapless inhalers.
Sometimes the objects that we choke on are already in our mouths to begin with. That's the case with some of the dental appliances. Some of them are rather familiar to us, such as this lower partial plate there, and others, these types of bridges are no longer made just because it is so easy to swallow them.
Conventional wisdom suggests nothing larger than an inch can be swallowed, but this padlock measures nearly 2 inches wide.
Some of the buttons definitely give us a sense of times past. This is a charming little one that is used to train a child how to cross a street. Obviously, it wasn't training him not to pick up and swallow buttons. Over here, we have a perfect attendance button, and one hopes that swallowing that button didn't spoil that child's record.
This fearsome exhibit is perhaps the most chilling item on display at the museum. This gruesome mass of tissue was donated in 1874 by Joseph Leidy. He called her the Soap Lady. Her corpse, nearly 200 years old, has not an ounce of fat on it. That's not because she worked out regularly. It's because every ounce of her fat has turned to soap. When a local graveyard had to be relocated, hundreds of rotting bodies were exhumed. When the laborers charged with conducting this grisly task came across an even more fearful corpse than the others, it didn't take long for Leidy to hear about it. He concluded that a rare chemical reaction in the soil had turned the woman's decomposing flesh into this brown, fatty substance, very similar in composition to soap. The process preserved much of the detail in her flesh. The delicate skin on her feet still hangs between the joints on her skeletal toes. On her hands, you can still see wrinkles at the joints. And here on her head, flaking flesh mingles with her white hair. Once safely delivered to her new home, scientists began conducting tests on her, including this remarkable series of X-rays. In this X-ray, doctors spotted this metal pen. Analysis of the pen determined the soap lady must have died in the early 1800s, meaning the metamorphosis had taken just 65 years. Nobody knows the true identity of the soap lady or how she died. But buried alongside her was a soap man. Long since separated, we can only hope the soap couple slipped into the next world together. This eye-catching wall of molds of eyes shows just some of the terrible and painful fates to have befallen a number of patients. From the everyday to the horrific, from the unfortunate to the truly gruesome. Gretchen Warden is responsible for keeping the collection up to date, but she's taken a special interest in two of the college's older residents. Chang and Eng, the Siamese twins, studied here at the college after their death. This plaster cast was made in the museum after the autopsy. The boys were born in Siam in 1811, joined here at the chest by a band of skin and cartilage. By the age of 17, Chang and Eng were earning money for their family performing gymnastics for anyone who'd pay to watch them. Their curious appearance soon took the brothers to audiences around the world. Their fame had spread. An entrepreneurial manager invited them to America, where he presented them on a grand tour. They became known as the Siamese twins. With their new billing, the brothers built a career being exhibited in all the best venues around the world. This is a special double-seated chair Chang and Eng took with them everywhere. The twins performed daily shows in which they demonstrated feats of strength and displayed their connecting band to sell out audiences.
After a while, they accumulated enough money so they were able to retire, and they liked the area of Mount Airy, North Carolina. So there they settled down, they bought land, they married sisters, and eventually had 21 children. They lived on separate farms so that each man could be master of his own house. After the Civil War, they were of course loyal Confederates. They lost a great deal of money in the war, and they had to go back on the tour route in order to recoup and try to support their families. And it was during that time that Chang, who is on the right-hand side, suffered a stroke. And for the last 5 years of his life, he was more or less incapacitated and had to be slightly helped around by his brother Eng. And so in 1874, in January, they were doing the routine move from one house to the other. During the night, Eng woke up sometime later and discovered that his brother Chang was dead. And several hours later, Eng followed. And today we think that he simply bled to death, since his brother's heart was not returning the blood to his body, even though it was a superficial circulatory connection.
Only after their deaths could the Siamese twins experience the one thing they had never known during life: separation, as surgeons at the Motor Museum performed the autopsy. This photograph was taken immediately after the operation, in which doctors discovered it would have taken only a simple procedure to separate the boys. Stained yellow by formaldehyde, these are Chang and Eng's livers. Still visible today is the thin band of tissue that connected them. Chang and Eng's display here has inspired a further exhibit looking at the history of other Siamese twins. These are the North Carolina twins, Millie and Christine McCoy. Born into slavery, they were just 2 years old when they were taken from their family and forced into circus life. These boys were the Tocci brothers, Giovanni and Giacomo, born in Italy in 1877. But it is the original Siamese twins who attract most attention here at the Motor Museum. Despite contemporary trends to remove the more unsavory articles, Chang and Eng remain on view for doctors to study, and so the public may understand how medicine continues to advance for all our benefits. Having its home in a city which boasts such great attractions as the Liberty Bell, for the Motor Museum to have as many visitors as it does proves there's a part of every body interested in body parts. Would you believe it? Here in the small town of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, live an elite group of men, a select few, upon whom a very great honor has been bestowed. On their shoulders rests the weighty responsibility of ensuring that a centuries-old tradition is continued, a tradition that will culminate on February 2nd with the only 100% accurate weather forecasting system known to humanity. This weather forecasting system is known locally as Punxsutawney Phil.
Punxsutawney Phil is known as the seer of seers, the prognosticator of prognosticators, the premier weather forecasting entity in the world.
Phil is a groundhog, a common rodent found in the northeastern United States, and these men have dedicated their lives to looking after him. Once a year on Groundhog Day, Phil will forecast the weather for the 6 remaining weeks until spring. Though this empty field is peaceful now, on the night before Groundhog Day, it will be packed with over 30,000 people.
You just have to imagine this whole area right here. I mean, it is so packed in full of people. If you literally dropped a $100 bill on the ground, you would not be able to pick it up because there's just that many people here that we are so tightly compact out there within the crowd.
Every single person will be waiting anxiously for the proclamation of this marmot meteorologist.
That morning, what takes place is Phil mysteriously makes his way to Gobbler's Knob and is inside this large maple stump.
Phil communicates his prediction in a language known as groundhogese, a language that only the man lucky enough to be chosen as president of the Groundhog Club can understand.
Groundhogese is not what I expected, so I'm sure it's not what you expected. It's kind of like learning how to interpret dolphins and whales. It's a foreign language. It's a language all of its own. It's not one that carries on lengthy debates or conversations, but it does certainly get across his intention as to what the season brings.
Although there are some doubts about his methods, Phil's predictions are taken very seriously.
Phil's prognostication has gone on uninterrupted for 113 years. However, for a couple of years during World War II, we were asked not to make public his predictions so as not to give any advance information to our enemies.
When you visit Punxsutawney, don't expect to find Phil at his official residence here on Gobbler's Knob. His digs here may be stately compared to some groundhog homes, but for the king of rodents, it wouldn't do.
Many people think that Phil lives in a hole in the ground, but because of his royal status in the animal kingdom, it would be a totally inappropriate place for him to live.
When it isn't Groundhog Day, Phil resides here in the Punxsutawney Public Library. Protected from the elements behind these walls, he can watch the world go by and study weather patterns, constantly updating his prediction.
We want people to be familiar with him. We want to try to educate people. And what better combination than Phil, fun, and books?
Phil is without a shadow of a doubt Punxsutawney's most important resident, but his position as premier wasn't always so assured.
You take back in 1887, what was there to do? I think people were suffering from cabin fever and were looking for some sort of excitement or something to do just to celebrate with mankind. And they just took advantage of it. They went out and literally dug up a groundhog. And at that time, not as of today, we celebrate him. Then they would dig up the groundhog and eat him.
Thankfully, all this is ancient history, and now the only person who gets to gnaw on Phil is Phil. In fact, his guardians now go to special lengths to prolong his life.
Every year at our summer picnic, we give Phil a little shot of punch. And for every gulp of punch he gets 7 more years of longevity.
As long as Groundhog Day continues, there will always be controversy about its scientific validity. But to the members of the Groundhog Society in Punxsutawney, such quibbles are irrelevant.
We believe that it is supposed to be a little bit silly. It's here to have fun with, and without question, if you have to, if you question the science, you've missed the point.
I'll guarantee you, the people that stay home under the covers on February 2nd don't remember that day a year later. The people that get up and stand out in the middle of the woods, they'll remember that day for the rest of their life.
Meanwhile, as long as Punxsutawney Phil can keep up his 100% accurate forecasts, For this lucky rodent, every day is Groundhog Day. This is the story of 3 young people from a small town in America. A town that was destined to become more than just a crossroads in the fields of Pennsylvania. Tragically, for a whole generation of American men, this town was the end of the road. Gettysburg. Jenny Wade was born in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania on May 21st, 1843. Her childhood sweetheart was a local boy, Jack Skelly. They fell in love, and when war came and Jack signed up to fight for his country, it was understood by the townsfolk that as soon as the Southern rebels were beaten, there would be a wedding in Gettysburg. Jack's best friend, Wesley Culp, like most of the patriotic young men of the town, had signed up as soon as the war started, but Wesley chose to fight for the Confederates. In a war that covered huge areas of the country, fate would ensure that the 2 friends, Jack and Wesley, would find themselves on opposing sides of the battle line. On a hot, sticky evening in June 1863, General Robert E. Lee ordered the 2nd Corps of the Army of Northern Virginia to clear the lower Shenandoah Valley of Union forces. The ensuing fighting was some of the worst in the whole war, and when the smoke cleared, over 2,400 Union soldiers had surrendered. Among these men was Jack Skelly, badly wounded in battle. When Wesley recognized his old friend from Gettysburg, he took him to a nearby hospital. Jack was on his deathbed, but he wasn't ready to die, not before he had sent word of his love to his sweetheart. When the order came for the Confederate Army to move onwards, Jack made his friend Wesley promise to deliver a message to Jenny Wade as soon as he returned home to Gettysburg. Wesley found himself back home sooner than he'd thought. Unfortunately, the war had come with him. Wesley had carried the message over many miles, and now the end of his journey was in sight. Jenny was staying here at her sister's house on the far side of Gettysburg. Since the day her sweetheart Jack had left for war, she had been waiting for news from him. Now, as soldiers filled the streets, she waited anxiously by the door, baking bread for the hungry men and listening out for the one voice among the many that would bring her happiness. Ironically, the man who had that message, Wesley Culp, got as far as this hill, where he was killed in battle. Incredibly, after fighting in some of the worst skirmishes of the Civil War, traveling far and wide across the South, Wesley died here in the North, on Culp's Hill, his family's farm. Even if Wesley had made it to the Wade house, it would have been in vain. Jack Skelly's girlfriend, who many thought would become his wife, was dead. The only civilian life lost in Gettysburg. Jenny Wade had been baking bread, waiting for news when a sniper's bullet had ended her life. She was carried into this cellar, where she died, never having heard the message from Jack Skelly, and unaware even that her sweetheart was already dead. But this is not the end of this tragic story. Even today, visitors to the Jenny Wade house in Gettysburg feel a reluctance to go down into the cellar where she died. There have been reports of a ghostly presence. The restless spirit of Jenny Wade can be seen pacing the floor, waiting for word from her sweetheart, waiting in vain for the message that will never come. Would you believe it? This is a story about a town that has been on fire since 1962. Centralia is, according to some, in imminent danger of collapsing into an underground mine fire that has been raging beneath the town's streets.
It started in Cunningham Township, went through Centralia, and now is burning in Cunningham Township on the other side of Centralia.
It is a ghost town with, of course, a ghost story, a chilling explanation for what some see as this town's descent into the fiery depths of hell. In the 19th century, the region surrounding Centralia was at war. A vicious struggle between mine owners and fledgling labor organizations had resulted in a series of murders, followed by reprisals. Both sides were guilty of terrible crimes, and for many, it was all they could do to stay out of the way of these warring factions. For the priest of Centralia, not getting involved was not an option. Many of his flock were accused of being Molly Maguires, a band of terrorists who allegedly held mine owners for ransom and carried out murders across the region. When the priest was accused of giving shelter to a wanted Molly, angry citizens dragged him into the streets. In this terrible time of violence, mob rule prevailed, and the unfortunate priest was beaten savagely and hounded out of town. His last act as priest of Centralia was to summon his strength and pronounce a terrible curse on the town. As a punishment for treating him so badly, the town would be swallowed up by the fires of hell. Generations later, when smoke started issuing from the ground, many townsfolk knew exactly what was happening. The priest's curse was taking effect. Centralia once had a population of over 1,100. These empty lots are all that remain of a once busy town. The main highway into the town has been closed for years, and nature is busy reclaiming what humans had temporarily claimed. No children play here anymore. Most of the people left in town are retired or are commuters working elsewhere. Now the population of Centralia is 36. Yet far from being concerned at the prospect of living amidst such an inferno, Mayor Lamar Mervine and Chief of Police John Komarniski see no danger at all.
The public image is that it's a town or a borough or a community that's being engulfed by a mine fire, that we have flames shooting up in the streets and we have people that are being overwhelmed by gases and sucked into subsidences, and that just really isn't the case.
The fires started in 1962, and it's continued to burn for 36 years. It has never damaged a home or injured a person.
The federal government did a study through the Department of the Interior that said essentially that the coal under Centralia is underwater. The fire can't burn in coal that's underwater.
In fact, these last few survivors have a very different story to explain the mystery of their town.
Underneath the borough of Centralia, there's about $300 million worth of coal. I guarantee that within 6 months after the last resident has been relocated from the borough of Centralia, there will be somebody in here who will be ostensibly putting out the mine fire. In the process of putting out the mine fire, he will excavate all of the coal underneath the borough of Centralia, which is, like I said, worth about $300 million. Somebody will make a really big profit.
Curiously, even with such a huge sum of money at stake, the people of Centralia aren't tempted to cash in and move out.
We don't want to take advantage of selling the coal because in order to do that, we would have to relocate, and we do want to live here in Centralia. There's no way for us to exploit the cash value of the coal, the $300 million, without us forfeiting living in this community. And we like living in this community, and we're willing to forego the $300 million just to be able to stay here.
Meanwhile, in this ghost-filled town, smoke continues to pour from the ground, and to those less sanguine than the police chief, it seems that the old priest's curse is still coming true. Would you believe it?